labor and a bunch of anxiety to make it go away. Legally, I'd like to point out.
That was in the electronic
other solutions were discussed at the time. But, Rich, I take your point. I think that Ernie is actually one of the things we like about Ernie a lot is that he's always looking for that angle. Case in point is the Freon exploration, which is not a done deal. There's shopping that goes on and negotiation.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand, Joe, the legal liability of doing it to somebody who's in the business of recycling.
Explain about the material on the hard drives.
We're just gonna.
Oh yeah, we. Jesus. Again, I'm not offering legal advice. We buy legal advice and recycle it to you all. We just had a scare this week about taking computers that have hard drives that have stuff on them. The Municipal Association sent out a bulletin that says, you know, you could get sued for that, which seems crazy to me. So we're going to make him do it from now on.
I mean, is it fine to just tell people that no, we're not going to take them here? Is it a service you must provide?
I think that there are a couple of balls in the air, and this is probably not the meeting to discuss them in detail, beyond to assure you all that, in fact, Ernie is pretty good at looking under the bush for the next angle that we can exploit. That's our belief as his employer. And I think we should be very pleased with the administration we have, period. Where does that leave us? Health agency, welfare and direct assistance?
Were we all on health agency? So, line U, welfare direct assistance, $40,600. Discussion. Line B, parks and recreation, $15,500. Discussion. Line W, library, $30,000. Any discussion? Line X, patriotic purposes, $3,000. Any discussion? Line Y, Conservation Commission, $1,500. Any discussion? Line Z, interest on tax anticipation note, $3,000. Any discussion? Okay, Article 8 has been recommended by the Board of Selectmen and the majority vote is required. Now, is there any general discussion on Article 8? If not, I will take a motion for placing the amended Article 8 on the ballot.
So
I have a motion.
So I would move that we amend Article 8 to read $1,624,348 and put it on the ballot as amended. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Now would you just read me that total figure again?
1,624,348. I need a second though.
Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded. Article 8. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $1,624,348. If this article be defeated, the operating budget will be $1,509,663, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Alstead or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. All in favor of placing that motion on the ballot as read, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? I declare that motion has passed. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $130,000 to pave as many miles on Gilson Mine Road as $130,000 will allow for this purpose. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, majority vote required. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 8, the operating budget. Do I have a motion?
Move that the article be placed on the warrant as written. Ballot.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. The Article 9 be placed on the ballot as read. Do I have a second? David.
The $130,000, I think, will do the mine road quite nicely, and there may be some money left over. Can we jump across to North Road if this is all spelled out as mine road?
No,
To use the rest of the,
we
No,
can't.
I guess not.
We
Is there
can't.
anything we can do about that?
Yes,
Yeah, we
may
can- we can
amend
have North
Article
Road.
9 to read Gilson Mine and or North Road.
Okay. So,
The motion is on the floor.
well, let's talk about this just for a minute. We've talked about Gilson Mine Road every year, the last several. We had a public hearing in East Alstead Church in the summer. Was anybody there?
Two.
Anyway, and the consensus in that room was that we should spend $1 million and do it right, for heaven's sake. We just can't do it. We can't make ourselves. Now, if you tell us we should just do that, then we'll do that. But anyway, so where we ended up was realizing how much better the road is, at least for the time being, further down toward Gilson, which has only just been deep shimmed and paved. And it's going to go to hell again in 3 or 4 or 5 years, depending on the winters we have. But the mine road, what's left of it that's so bad, can get a whole lot better if we just pour more money on it. But not fixing it right. That's the thing. We're not fixing it right. We're just making it flat for a while. And if we can go further and get across the blinking light, that's okay with me, but that's your department, not mine. So I would want to make a motion that we add and North Road to this, and or,
It's not gonna be or. It's gonna be either.
But it might
Yes.
not be North.
David,
what?
are we for sure going to get onto North Road with $130,000 worth of asphalt?
Well, the first one was a mile and 7/10, the second was a mile and 8/10. It's nowhere near that, it's only 7/10 of a mile left, or 8/10. But it's a lot worse shape, so we've got to put a little more mix into it to get our, before we put it.
All right, so the amendment will say to pave as many miles on Gilson Mine and North Road as $130,000 will allow, which is perfect. So just adding and North Road after Gilson Mine Road.
I'll second that amendment.
Been moved and seconded that Article 9 be amended to read, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $130,000, pave as many miles on Gilson Mine Road and North Road as $130,000 will allow for this purpose. So, discussion on the amendment. We will go back to the article again. The discussion on the amendment.
Can we stipulate that he started at the top and come down? That top is really bad.
Then there's a big hole in the mine road.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, is it possible to spend more money on that 1/7/10, like these are some sections that was so bad that they'd be worth digging up the new foundation?
I don't think it would do any good.
Where do you start, where you end?
Yeah.
I know, I realize that.
I
Yeah.
did some extra work around the box culvert we put in. And that road, so far what I did seems to be staying flat, but I have no guarantee what's going to be next year. Or at the end of this winter.
Grinding it, putting it down before you pave it. I mean, that levels it. They did that over the other side of Jane now, a few years ago, and that's held up halfway decent.
The problem up there is, Bruce, there's nothing underneath it but clay and rocks. So grind, what you've got now is a base. So if you shim over that, you've got a better depth of asphalt. Whereas if you grind it up, you have nothing but the 3 or 4 inches you call.
Is that the whole standard?
There's everything in that thing. From horseshoes to
Yeah, I'm
spots.
talking on the north road, up above the station.
No, it's,
This right here?
yes. But before that, it was oil and sands.
Last time the North Road was paved in 1996.
Well, no different than these down here. These roads are supposed to be paved every 8 to 10 years. Every 20 years, well, for 123.
Okay, we're asking, looking for discussion on the amendment, to amend Article 9 to include the word "and north road." Any other discussion on the amendment? If not, I'll ask for a vote on the amendment to add the wording "and north road" to Article 9. All of those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? I will declare the amendment to pass. Now, is there further discussion on Article 9 as amended? Okay.
I've used a couple of years here, so do we have like a list of road priorities going for us? Or we're working on this road and then we'll move on to
No,
someone?
we have a list that's all made up of when they were paid, and we're working right down that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, if not, I will take a vote on the amended Article 9. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $130,000 to pave as many miles on Gilson Mine Road and North Road as $130,000 will allow for this purpose. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Declare that in the affirmative. Article 10, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $135,000 to repair the bridge on Hill Road. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, majority vote required. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 8, the operating budget. Is there any discussion?
We had Cold River Bridge come over and give us some preliminary numbers, a whole bunch of different options. This was the number that best fit all the options he gave us. I have a recommendation of what I'd like to do, but that's,
That will pass muster of the state.
yes.
Yeah, this is a painful process. I promised I wasn't going to bring it up, but you brought it up, Rich. There's a state-funded bridge fund that pays for the replacement of town bridges on heavily traveled roads. It's a wonderful thing. But there's any money in that fund for us before 2024. I'm not kidding, that's the number. So if we replace it with a bridge that would last 30, 60, 90 years, we pay 100% of the cost for it. Now, and never see a dime from the bridge fund. If we put $135,000 state-approved Band-Aid over the top of it, in 2024, we'll get 80-20 to put in a brand new state-of-the-art, well, if the fund exists, John.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. I'm not betting on that, and I want to go back to my little rant about how people contribute in this town. We called Jimmy Holler in and we said, so what am I going to do with this mess? Here are the plans, here's the state engineer, all these people in the room. This is the worst case scenario. There are other approaches. David's got one, I've got one that we've developed as a group that may or may not meet the town's needs. The alternatives cost less than this. This one will pass the state's muster and meet the town's needs. David and I have different ideas about what should really be done out there. But it won't be any more than this. And if this doesn't pass, that probably, not certainly, probably will remain closed until we find some money somewhere.
Right?
Joel, every 2 days you run a new auction by me for that bridge. Might ask your liability aspect, why you find out on that?
Nah, she hasn't answered me yet. What Bruce is talking about is another scheme where we take responsibility ourselves to the town for this bridge, and we hire an engineer to get another inspection. We're not sure this bridge is as rotten as the state says it is. I think it'd be worth our money to get a second opinion from somebody with a license and a big liability policy. We also think there's an option for us to restrict that bridge to a single lane, just exactly wide enough and posted heavy enough to pass a school bus, and get it inspected to that level, and get it to carry on without spending anything like this kind of money to 2024, when the bridge fund will then be gone. I don't have a magic answer, but I want you to know that Bruce and I have been bouncing around all kinds of harebrained schemes to fix it.
I just need to know which bridge is it? Is it the one at the bottom of the hill or the one halfway up the hill?
Right by the log cabin.
On the bottom.
At the bottom.
At the bottom.
But that's the thing I want to mention,
Oh, God,
is that this isn't just the bridge we have to fix. And there is some confusion about which bridge they're condemning, and because on that little stretch there are 3, and they're not in good condition. And the state, if they can come in and close this one, can come in and close the one we think is worse than the one they closed. So we're going to have that to deal with. This is the big picture stuff, all happening sort of at once. And to fix that culvert right, we have a number, $450,000 right now to fix it right. And then there's another one further up, another 200 yards that might be that again. And then one around the corner that might be that again or more. That's a bigger one. It's all stuff that we have to be thinking about. What we do about it, I don't know. But that's why we started last year the Capital Reserve Fund for bridges, which has a measly $5,000 in it to get it started. But, yeah, here in the Capital Reserve account, those are actual balances. But the bridge expense that the country is facing is enormous, and it includes Alstead.
Yeah, if we have a bridge that we think is worse than the one that got kicked, don't we have some liability if we don't do something to...
Because we only think it, the state hasn't said so. We gotta go with what the state said.
So if we approve this warrant article, we'll continue to explore alternatives that don't spend $135,000.
I will, yeah.
When do you figure that you have to do the work on that?
Well,
Yeah.
it depends what we do to it. If we go inside, it has to be low flow or no flow. The water, any water this has to be pumped around. If we go over the top with concrete, we can do it anytime. But the downside to going over the top of concrete and all rebar is when you put the new bridge in, if you ever do, it's all gonna come out. Whereas if you put a balloon liner in it and grout it, it's nothing to take. So I'm looking at the other side of taking out versus putting in as well.
So I hear everybody right, we're looking at, directionally, we're looking at approving this article, but finding an approach that doesn't spend $135,000 on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
No promises, but that is certainly our impulse. The other thing I don't want the town to lose sight of is that there's at least 2 more bridges that are going to have the same problem, I'll bet, 12 months from now on that road. So, so we want to use this as an opportunity to pioneer a kind of a portable solution, because we know with a higher degree of certainty than we usually do that we're going to be facing this problem again very soon from these 70s era metal culverts.
How many of these are there, David, of this age? How many of these big culverts are there of this age? 6, I think you said, in town?
Of these big culverts like this right here, as far as I know, there's only 2 pipes like that. The rest are bridges. Some are timber deck with stones holding them up, some concrete holding them up, but there's only 2 pipes of this side left.
Let me rephrase that. How many big conduits for water?
6.
6, I thought. Thanks.
But the pipe type is only 2.
Any other discussion on Article 10? Okay, as Article 10 has not been amended, we do not need to vote. I will not read it again. Article 11, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to stripe the paved road. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, majority vote required. This appropriation is in addition to warrant Article 8, the operating budget. Any discussion?
Pity Walter Warnick isn't here.
What does it take?
I wish.
I think it's on you.
I really do wish.
Well, I'd like to say, we came over Pitcher Mountain the other night in dense fog, and if it hadn't been for the striping, we'd still be trying to find our way home.
My daughter was thinking of striping on the Gilson Mine Road just recently.
Yep. Any other discussion on Article 11?
David, did you ever stripe there Brook Road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I came through there last summer in a pretty good fog, and there were no stripes on it at that time. And with my eyesight getting worse every year, that wasn't a lot of fun, so I'm all in favor of these stripes.
Made a difference.
I thought I was gonna get a bunch of guff from Ethel, but I didn't.
First time.
Yeah.
So what we are going to do is stop striping just before we get to Walters. That way everybody will be happy about the same amount. God bless him.
Any other discussion on Article 11? If not, we'll move on to Article 12. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $215,000 to be placed in the following capital reserve fund. And once again, okay, before I read these, I'm just going to read the end. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, majority vote required. Appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 8, the operating budget. And as with the operating budget, I will allow for amendment on each of these lines as we go through. The highway, established in 1988, $75,000.
Let me ask you a question. So if this article somehow gets defeated, that means nothing gets put into any of those reserves?
Right.
Yeah, well, I think we ought to think about that in terms of the total amount that we're looking at here, in view of everything else that's going on with tax rates. So, I think versus what we talked about at the deliberative, at the hearing, and, you know, there was a sense that we ought to increase some of these, but I think we've added $90,000 in total to the.
Yeah, but it's still not enough.
Yeah, okay, and
There's,
zero's not enough either.
this is us in the room again. This is the future again. Are we going to be able to do this? Where is my poster? No, this one. To maintain our current fleet of equipment, buying each piece in its turn, paying for it out of capital reserve, we will need to fund each year's capital reserve warrant article to the extent of $335,000 in 2012, $335,000 in 13, $340, $300, $350, $260, $250, $260. That's the status quo. That's what will replace our fleet each piece at a time. If we aren't willing to do that, and if we aren't willing to agree that we're going to do that and tell our friends this is what we have to do if this is what we want, and only if this is what we want. If we don't do that, we'll be patching the grader for the next God knows how long.
Well, we're not doing that with this amount either.
That's true.
Okay.
So, you know, it's sort of a half measure. But it's better than, you know, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, the risk is it's too much money on voting day and it gets turned down and then nothing gets put in. That's the risk. It's true. But on the other hand, it's a certainty. If we don't put the money in, it's not going to happen. And it's a lot of money. It really is. I mean, stuff is just getting, the big heavy stuff is getting so expensive compared to everything else. And so that's the future. This is the discussion I wanted to have tonight. You know, what do we do about this? Is it sensible to even try to think of carrying everything we have now into the future?
Quick question on this. Can these be voted on separately?
No.
Instead of making an article?
No.
No, okay.
I mean, they could another year. We could break it up.
Or you can
Yeah.
amend it tonight.
You can amend them line item, you can amend them line to line.
Yeah,
I was wondering, if this looks like it's too much money that we're not even able to maintain, is there any equipment that's going to be able to be done without?
Sure. If we don't have the money to maintain our equipment, we're not going to be able to maintain it all. Something's going to have to go.
Well, I know, but is it all absolutely crucial?
No, and that's what this discussion is about. If we do not fund the status quo, we will for certain be getting less in services from the town, for sure. And it's not going to cost us any less than it is now to do that. We're going to be paying the same and getting less. And maybe that's what the future is. I can adjust to that, I'm sure. I'm sure we all can adjust to that.
If we have to.
If we have to. But that's the choice before us. Do we fund the future the way we have funded the past? Or do we put the brakes on the increases and do with less? Less snow plowing on the weekends, maybe. Maybe not an excavator in the highway department. You know, we get to make those choices, but they will be making choices about what we have that we will be agreeing to do without. That's why this is important. It can be whatever it is we agree it should be. I can deal with less. I've done with less in my own household. I have one vehicle instead of two. I've always had two. But one is doing it. It's the same thing at the town level. It can be whatever we want. But the facts are, to maintain our current status quo is more expensive than it used to be. Are we willing to do that, or are we not?
Well, we're obviously not, because 2013, we need 335,000.
Well, what happens is we take part of the money for the new piece of equipment out of the capital reserve, because it's not all there. And then we raise by taxation, new taxation, the other piece. Last year's truck we bought with half money from capital reserve and half from new taxation.
No, we did
All
all.
capital reserve.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That must have been the year before?
No, actually, we put it on for half, but it was changed at this meeting.
Right.
Okay, we put it on for half. That was another way to do it, and it was changed at this meeting. But anyway, no, it doesn't mean that if we don't fund the capital reserve, we can't buy the equipment. We certainly can. The overarching thing about a capital reserve plan is to envision the heavy equipment needs, the things that cost the most money, 7 years in the future. And then under the planning board's auspices, those things are moved around with an eye to keeping the tax rate level. So in other words, you don't buy something for 3 years and then you need something for $500,000 in the fourth. The idea is to put the money away so that it's the same amount every year. The closest I came last year when I did that poster was 335, 335, 340, 300, 350, and then it drops some and stays level at a lower level because we've got the stock built up again. But we can always combine money in a capital reserve fund with new taxation to buy something. So that any decision we make tonight about what the future is going to look like, we can change our minds about altogether next year this time.
There's sort of, the way I think about it is there's three kinds of pain in this discussion. And I won't even give you the commercial about my opinion on SB2, which makes this live or die, which makes this room have to guess what will be palatable to the other 400 people that are going to vote on it without any information. Well, I guess that does sound like an opinion, but there's three kinds of pain. One is the kind of pain this year where you raise and appropriate this money and put it in the bank to save it. The second kind of pain is you get to the year where you need this X piece of equipment, whatever it is. The ambulance finally blows up after 17 years. And you don't have enough money in the capital reserve to pay for it, but you really need it, so you clean out the capital reserve and set that to zero, and you raise another $80,000 in short-term taxation. The third kind of pain is you say, oh, to hell with it, we're not going to do capital reserves at all. We'll just catch as catch can as the future presents itself. I don't recommend that. None of you have actually historically been supportive of that notion, but that is within our power to do. and as a short-term way to keep the tax rate under control, that's not a bad idea. This article, as written, will raise your property taxes by $1.25, $1.35 maybe, per thousand. It's not trivial.
I think John.
Yeah, I just